Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. I was born in Tehran, Iran, and I'm Armenian. We came to Sydney, Australia when I was 7 years old, and I've been here ever since. I've owned many galleries specializing on indigenous art for the past 25 years. This is the first time I've opted to tell my tale to anyone other than my family and very close friends. My scenario differs from other near-death experiences in that I've experienced numerous of them. I'm not sure if other individuals have had more than one encounter, but I've had 7 of them. I've tried to figure out why these things keep happening to me. My first 2 NDEs happened when I was 6. I had terrible breathing problems due to my tonsils, and my parents took turns watching over me during the night because I frequently stopped breathing and they had to shake me to start breathing again. The tonsils were removed after my 2 NDE experiences. I suppose I'll tell my story regardless. Memory 1. I had my first out-of-body experience when I was 6 years old. I vividly recall floating out of my body while sleeping throughout the day. We had guests all over, and I remember floating out of my body, gliding into the room with the guests, and floating above them as they sat. I kept attempting to talk to the folks, but they couldn't see me. I could hear them conversing while waving at their faces. One word I recall hearing was Ferdowsi, which is the name of a town or a suburb in Tehran. This memory will never leave me. Memory 2. This happened in another place we resided, which was a complex of apartments. I was 6 years old at the time, and my tonsils were removed soon after. My mother used to make homemade ice cream in a large stainless bowl, and I had to eat it in the bathroom so my younger sister didn't get any. We had a sick neighbor across the street who died while going to the bathroom. Her carer approached us and requested for assistance, so we rushed over, and I discovered her dead in the bathroom. I remember exactly where I was sleeping one night soon after the occurrence when an angel-like figure entered the room via the wall on my left. It was a female figure with long shining hair, standing around 6 feet tall and gleaming in a golden apricot and light-filled color. I floated out of my body, and we returned through the wall into the hallway, along the corridor through the door, and turned right to the rooftop stairs. We were halfway up the steps when we suddenly passed through a wide spiral tunnel with rings or segments. I'm not sure if I was alone, if what appeared to be a female angel was with me. The force of this tunnel was quite intense, dragging me upwards, and it also felt like the tunnel was curving and very wide, rather than straight. I found myself in an extremely white, light-filled environment. It felt like a vast floating square space. There were children there. Everything was light-filled and white. It was really serene yet unusual. I wasn't conscious of my own body, but I did see children in white clothes, joyful and doing their own thing, unconcerned about me. The female figure approached me and asked, "Do you want to stay here, or do you want to go back?" "I want to go back to my mother," I exclaimed in a panic. "Make a careful decision, because you cannot change your mind," she added. So I repeated once more, "No, I want to go back to my mother." This chat was conducted without the use of sound. We communicated telepathically. Then I was back in the tunnel, being forced downwards as if I had slipped into a hole in the floating door, the same one through which I entered. For a brief time during this extremely rapid downward spiral, I wondered if that lady was correct. Can I return to where she was? So I tried to turn around in the tunnel, but the power was too strong for me. I'm not sure how I got back into my body. Third memory. We were now in Sydney, Australia, and I was probably 9 or 10 years old. We resided on the 3rd floor in a block of flats. I recall leaving a hairbrush on the end of my bed before going to bed, but I was too lazy to move it. My grandmother had recently died in Armenia. I recall looking over to my right as I was sleeping and seeing a bright female figure coming from the corridor towards me, and she sat on the end of my bed. My spirit was sitting up in my bed while my body was sleeping. The figure began to touch my hair in a really caring manner, and then she vanished. My spirit then left my body entirely and walked towards the window, half floating and half standing. I was looking out the window when I noticed my legs flying upward. I panicked out and tried to stop them from floating upward because I was afraid I would fall out of the window. I was able to stop my spirit from floating away and then return to my body. The encounter was strange and unsettling after the person had vanished. I knew it wasn't true, and I don't like it one bit. I awoke immediately after returning to my body, terrified of what had just occurred, and had to turn on the lights. Fourth memory. I was living in another house during this fourth experience. It occurred once again when I was about 16 years old and sleeping when I felt an extremely powerful being, and I felt as if my heart was racing so rapidly and my entire existence was vibrating at a really high frequency. I felt myself traveling through a tunnel that was a spiral tunnel moving clockwise with such a great force dragging me towards something. I was saying, "No, no, I hate this, stop. I don't want this to happen again. This thing is pulling me like a spiral. If I think of a spiral, the force is going counterclockwise, and I may come out of it," I thought instantly. So I started doing that, and instead of dragging me in, the force pushed me out. I awoke immediately and was so terrified that I couldn't go back to sleep. Memory 5. This occurred in the same room as Memory 4. I felt the vibration of my existence being charged like electricity again as I was sleeping. While my physical eyes were closed, my soul eyes were open. This is strange. What is this? I thought, as I saw my spirit hand move off my corporeal hand and float above. I raised my hand to my eyes and attempted to touch my face. I tried pinching my face as well, but I couldn't feel anything. My hand then ascended like a feather. Wow, this is my soul, I thought at the time. I remembered how my spirit hand went through the wall near my head to the outside of the house during my second experience, so I wonder if my spirit hand can go through the wall near my head to the outside of the house. My spirit hand glided freely in the air, and when it reached the wall, it went through the wall, although it felt somewhat different through the wall, as if a sponge had been filled with water, but it felt normal when my hand went outside. It felt airy at first. Then there was some resistance through the wall, and it drifted like a feather in my room again. I was fascinated by what was going on and was not afraid until my spirit floated up and completely left my body. It floated upwards, rolled over, and landed next to my bed, where I could see myself asleep. But this time, unlike any other time, I saw a cord attached to my spirit and physical body. Like an umbilical cord, it was white like my spirit, and looked the same as smoke from a cigarette when I saw the cord. So I consciously rolled my spirit over and floated above my body again, and that's exactly how it felt. My soul went back into my body with a little resistance when my hand went through the wall, and there was a powerful vibration. I awoke mentally tired from what had just occurred. I was completely dumbfounded and stunned. I've also had spirits come to me in my sleep and touch my throat. When I turned to face the spirit, it placed its palm over its face, blew into his hand, and vanished. I then awoke unexpectedly. I talked to an indigenous person about it, and he informed me that the spirit was the guide for the 2 young girls who stayed in my house that night. He also mentioned you might have a throat problem. The fascinating thing is that I used to have lumps in my throat that needed to be watched, and once, while traveling through remote indigenous settlements, an indigenous healer saw me and immediately remarked, "There's something in your throat." This was unusual because the lumps could not be seen visually. He desired to heal me. I let him do it, but I wasn't very interested in what he had in mind. Another time, I was spiritually aware in my sleep and felt an entity enter me, at which point I cried, "Get out!" And it did. This was the most terrifying experience I'd ever had. I'm not sure what has occurred to me or why I appear to have an open ability to another realm that I don't comprehend or want to be a part of. I try not to think about it too often because I'm afraid of attracting it into my life. The only time I've brought it up is when someone has died and family members are wondering if there's life after death. I often claim there's something beyond our existence and experience, but I'm not sure what it is or if we'll ever find out. Life here is straightforward. Be a nice person with compassion for all living things. The other universe felt pristine and bright. I'm still terrified of dying because I know there's more to life than this, but I don't know what it is. And that is more terrifying to me than believing that when we die, we cease to exist.